library friends. This is Miss Cindy from the Crown Point Community Library, and today I'm going to be bringing the library into your home with some simple science. If you joined me the past couple weeks, you know that we've been using paper to do paper STEM challenges, and we're going to be doing the last of our paper STEM challenges today. Today we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to talk about something called the scientific method. And the scientific method is just a series of steps that a scientist goes through to reach a conclusion. So some of these words may be familiar and some may be words that you've never heard before, but we're going to talk about them and we're going to go through each step of the process. So the first step of the scientific method is to decide on the purpose of our activity. So the purpose of our activity today is to find out which shape is going to be able to support the most weight. So that is our purpose. So the next thing we're going to decide is we're going to come up with a hypothesis. And a hypothesis is a big word, which means guess. Because we haven't done our science project yet, we haven't done our STEM challenge, so we don't know which shape is going to hold the most weight. So what we have to do now is we have to create our hypothesis. We have to make a guess based on different shapes that we know to determine what shape we think is going to hold the most weight. So there's three shapes that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using a square, a triangle, and a cylinder, which is a paper that's curved to look like a circle. So which shape do you think is going to hold the most weight? Okay, so let's find out if you're right. So we need the next step. So we did our purpose. We found out we made our guess, made our hypothesis. The third step is we need to list what materials we're going to have for our science STEM. So our materials that we're going to be using, we're going to need 3 sheets of paper. I have 3 that are all different colors, but they can all be white. It can all be notebook paper. It can be heavier paper. It's up to you. So you can use any type of paper that you have. And our other material that we're going to need is Scotch tape, and that's it. Those are our only materials that we need. I'm sorry, we have one other material. We need to have a book or something that has some type of weight, multiple books, so we can add extra weight to our shapes. We need something to test out how strong our shapes are. Okay, so let's go move on to our fourth step of the scientific method, and that is our procedure. So the procedure is, what are we going to do? If you're doing a science experiment, especially one from a book, you want to read through that whole procedure at the beginning to see if there's any steps that you need to know about in advance. But for today, our procedure is pretty easy. Our procedure is we're going to use our 3 sheets of paper, make one each into a different shape, tape them together, and then we're going to stand them up, put our book on top, and see which one holds the most weight. So that's our procedure. So that we need to go ahead and begin. So the first piece of paper that we're going to do, I'm going to fold this into a triangle. And how many sides does a triangle have? Do you know? A triangle has 3 sides. So since a triangle has 3 sides, if I fold my piece of paper into 3 sections, I can make it into a triangle, right? Does that make sense? 3 sides, 3 sections, a triangle. So I just folded it lengthwise. You could fold it the other direction. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm just going to simply tape these edges together. So I just want to put some tape on these to tape these edges together. And I'm going to put tape. I don't need to cover the whole side in tape. I'm just going to put 3 or 4 pieces of tape along that edge just to hold it together. All right, so look, I've created my first shape, and that is a triangle. It should be able to stand up on its own. I'm going to set that to the side because we'll be doing this all at the same time in a little bit. All right, so what is my second shape? We said our second shape is going to be a square. All right, so if you remember, a square has how many sides does a square have? So a triangle has 3. A square, or actually it's going to be a rectangle, not a square. It's going to be a rectangle, and the rectangle has 4 sides. And the difference between a rectangle and a square is that a square, all the sides are the same length. In a rectangle, 2 of the sides are the same, and the other 2 are the same, but not all 4. So I folded my sheet of paper into 4 sections so that now I can make it into, on the where to fold, to make it into a square. And I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the triangle. I'm just going to add some tape, 3 or 4 pieces of tape the top, the middle, and the bottom, so it'll stay together and keep that square shape. That's what I'm going for. So I'm going to add my tape. Put one more piece on here. All right, make sure they're sealed. They don't fall off. All right, and I have it looks like a square that way, but it's a rectangular column when I stand it up. So I'm going to set that over here by my triangle. Now I have a triangle and a rectangle, and I have my last piece of paper, and we said that's going to be a cylinder. Cylinders are round, so this one's actually really easy to do because I don't have to even bend the paper. So we're just going to put the tape on. We'll take again the same number of pieces of tape. I think I've used 4 on all of these. Put that onto my paper. And I'm just going to roll it and attach those pieces into a circular shape. And I'll just make sure my tape is sealed. And you'll see now I have a circle. So I made a cylinder, a circular shape, a rectangular shape, and a triangular shape. So I have 3 different shapes. So let's go back. So we identified our purpose, and our purpose is to see which type of shape is going to hold the most weight. Our hypothesis, that was that guess that we made. So do you remember what your hypothesis was? If you didn't make a hypothesis before, why don't you make one now and decide which one of these 3 you think is going to hold the most weight? And our next step was our materials. We needed 3 pieces of paper and some Scotch tape. And then our procedure was to fold the piece of paper, and then we're going to take a book, which I'm in a library, so I have lots of books around. Hopefully you have some books around your house. It can be any shape or size book that you'd like to use, but you want to use the same book to test all 3 shapes. Okay, so you don't want to test one shape with a really heavy book and another shape with a really light book, because then your results aren't going to be correct. So you want to use the same book to test all 3. So I have my book here. I'm going to start with the triangle since that was the first one that I created. So I just put my triangle out. And when I think about it, so my triangle has 3 corners, so it seems like it would be a pretty sturdy shape, right? Let's see if it will hold the book. So then I just put my book on top of it. And okay, well that's obviously not going to work. Let's try it again just to see. Nope. Okay, so our triangle was not able to support any weight at all. So we're going to set that one to the side, and we'll bring up our rectangular column and see how this one does. So now when you look back at your hypothesis, so if you had chosen the triangular column and that didn't work, you now have 2 other choices. So now you can change your hypothesis and rethink it and think which one you're going to go with now. So let's see about our rectangular column. And we're going to start by just putting our book on top of here. And it holds. Very good. So there we go. So that was good. So now we're going to add a second book. All right. It's still kind of holding. It got a little bit wonky there. Let's see if it can do a third book. Nope, a third book did not hold up to the third book. Okay, so we were able to get 2 books out of our rectangular column. Now let's try our cylinder. Let's see if our cylinder can hold. All right, so let's start with our first book. I want to make sure that I keep putting these books on in the same order. Okay, so that we're not changing any of the variables. All right, so book number 1, nice and steady. All right, how about book number 2? I'm trying to be very gentle putting these on. Book number 2. Now remember our rectangular one kind of got a little bit wonky there. So let's see about book number 3. book, it holds 3 books. Now we could keep stacking and keep finding out how many more books we could add to this. We could try different kinds of books. We could try different shapes. I had a bunch of picture books behind me that are like wider and longer, so we could try different shape to see. But what we've found out so far is that our cylinder works the best. So the next part of our scientific method is the results. And our results are that the triangle did not hold any weight. Our rectangular column held some, but our cylinder by far held the most weight. So our conclusion, in conclusion, we've learned that the cylinder is the best shape for holding weight. And part of that is because there is no edges, so it's just round, and so the weight is evenly distributed over the top of this, and so it supports the best. I think about in architecture, think about columns, and I don't know if you have columns that are holding up your front porch, or if you've seen columns when you're driving around, but columns are used a lot in architecture, and they're used because of their design, and because the weight is spread out and they can support such weight. So thank you for joining me today. I encourage you to try this at home and see what you can come up with, and feel free to post things on our Facebook Messenger page and let me know how your science experiment went. If you would like to get more resources, you can check out crownpointlibrary.org, and you can find other videos to watch. Thank you. Have a great day.